Welcome. My name is Amana, and I am a wild earth mama. This is a sacred space, a gathering place for stories. Stories of birth, stories of life, and stories of death, because each of us uniquely experience all three of these. In this current world of separation, I continue to believe that there is more that unites us than divides us. May this be a place to soak in heartfelt stories and insights from my own unique lens, as well as the stories of others in their unique perspective. Join me as we breathe life into storytelling while remembering what it means to be wild, human, and alive. Today, I am honored to have Judith Brownhawk with me. She has been a sacred friend and sister that has played a potent role in my life. She was there moments after I met my soul flame and sprinkled smudge around us in a sacred circle. And I am so grateful for you and excited to hear the stories you have to share today. Would you like to take a moment and introduce yourself and maybe talk about smudge while I burn some for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Bless us. That is smudge. That's my particular combination of cedar, sage, sweetgrass, and lavender. Traditionally, there would be tobacco in there instead of the lavender, but the tobacco is kind of harsh for me anyway. So I use lavender instead. All four ingredients are representative of north, south, east, west, of different different parts of life. Infancy, young child, adolescent, and adult, and even each one of those directions represents those two. The direction to the north is the direction of the elderly. The direction of the east is the newborn, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all of these things are, and the seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall, health-wise, mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. So all these, four is like a magic number. So all things in fours, and there's been much meditation on this. So there are probably 50 different combinations of things that can go into that when you do a smudge ceremony. And the idea is to first to light the smudge, and then you use a feather. The shell represents water. The herbs inside represent the earth. The feathers represent air, and then you blow on it or get air to it. So you got earth, air, fire, and water. So, and then the fire, of course, is that you lit it on fire. So you have all four elements of earth, air, fire, and water. And then the idea is that you begin by facing east, and you smudge yourself, get the smoke all over you. And then you turn east, and then turn south, and then west, and then north. And you continue in a circle. So to remind ourselves that life is a circle, it's cyclic. Everything is cyclic. I mean, the moon goes around the earth, and the earth goes around the sun, and the sun's going around the galaxy, and the galaxy is going around the universe. Everything's cyclic, including our lives, because we are all going through birth and going through the seasons of our lives, and then finally ending up in the winter of our lives as we prepare to take the journey and then perhaps be reborn again. Who knows? Nobody knows. Into another body and take the cycle again. So there are lots of different ceremonies for Native Americans, and different tribes are different. So no two are always exactly the same, but we pick and choose from each other's stuff what we want. I'm from the Chaktaw Nation of Oklahoma and Mississippi. And I was personally forcibly removed from my family at 2.5 years old, and put on a train from Oklahoma and shipped to Vancouver, Washington, where my 6 brothers and sisters and I, in the winter of 1958, were adopted into white homes to be indoctrinated and to continue the process of assimilation for Native American children, especially children who are half-breed, we called us at the time, because they really didn't want us being raised in our Native culture. So when I was 13, I left there to go find my family, and I hitchhiked around the country 6 times and finally met everybody and took back my culture. And I've been doing it ever since. They kept catching me and flying me back and locking me up, and then I'd run away again, and they chase me down and fly me back and lock me up. But I eventually met all my family and took back my culture. I learned how to do beading at that age from my grandmother, who was still alive at the time. And then started learning more about these ceremonies. And life in general is kind of a one ceremony after another. And when you look at what you do, and if you do it with joy, you know, the laundry becomes a ceremony, and the dishes become a ceremony, and nursing becomes a ceremony. And then there are all these different ways. The Jesus way, we all know about the Jesus way if you're a Christian. And then there's the beauty way, and the blessing way, and all these different other ceremonies that are just wonderful to be a part of your life. And if you don't know them, it's fine. Invent your own ceremonies, you know, find ways to enrich your children by having them invent ceremonies, you know, something that makes them, gives them a feeling, a more of a deep feeling of their spirit, which is interpreted, as I understand, as mind, will, and emotions. So your spirit is the thinking, feeling, and motivating part of a human being. It's not something ethereal that lives on after you. I think that's a soul. Your spirit, a spirited horse jumps and kicks his heels up, you know, a spirited woman talks back. You know, the spirit is a different kind of thing than I think people mean it to be. It's how you think, how you feel, and what motivates you. That's a spiritual event. So if you're in love, that's an emotional event. That's a spiritual event. If you're angry, that's a spiritual event. It may not be a positive spiritual event, but it is a spiritual event nonetheless. If you're frustrated, you know, you can list all kinds of emotions. Your willingness to do something or not do something is a spiritual event. Saying no when you feel like you're being pressured is a spiritual event, because all these things are moving to our emotions and to our psyche. So that's what's important. Music is a spiritual event if it moves you. You know, smudge is a spiritual event. That's another thing too. Most of these ingredients make bugs stay away from you. So like lavender is a natural spider barrier. So if you get enough of that smoke on you, ticks won't come near you and spiders won't come in the house. Sage is for flying insects, moths and other flying insects, and cedar too. You know, that's why we put those little cedar balls in your pocket in the closet. It's because they keep bugs out of your clothes, you know. And sweetgrass, I don't know what sweetgrass does, except that it just smells good. But it's a really nice thing to smudge with also. It's very sweet smelling. And if you get an old piece, you know, you haven't left it sitting up and you didn't use it, you can smell burnt sugar in it. It's really weird.
Oh.
But anyway, and then there's flute ceremonies. I brought a couple of flutes with me. This one is in the key of A. My husband made these for a long time till he had some heart issues. And so he's quit making them, but we're hoping he'll get back into it again. These are all digitally tuned, so you can play them with other instruments. This particular one is in A, which is 440 hertz for those of you who are musically inclined. And I teach lessons. So if you have a flute and you want to learn, it's $15 a lesson, and it takes about 6 lessons to really get it down good. There's all kinds of little tricks and tongue movements and stuff. This one is in F sharp, which is traditional. This is a key that kind of tugs at your heart when you're listening to it. So that's a sweet one. This one my husband made for me for my birthday. We have a kind of a joke that some of the music we play is not necessarily native, but or alternative. It's alternative. So it's kind of our ongoing joke. And so because when you really look at the word alternative, it's alternative.
Yes.
So we kind of mix in, play guitar with these and play, do some traditional and non-traditional music, even some blues, because the F sharp is really great blues instrument. And so that's kind of a flute ceremony. We'll get together and we play together, and it's a moving experience. It's a spiritual experience, and we get to share that together as a couple, and it makes us more powerful independently and together. Same with smudge ceremony. It's it's a very empowering thing, because you can, in fact, just sitting and staring at the smoke kind of swirling and doing its thing, it's kind of a Zen experience. I see a lot of similarities between all religions. In fact, I was taught that by one of my professors, is to look for the similarities in religions rather than the differences. And wherever those similarities are, there's a higher truth. And so I've spent most of my life trying to do that, since these wonderful people who I stand on the shoulders of, who've taught me all of these things, wonderful things all these years. I always want to give them credit. I didn't think it up. I wasn't that smart. But so anyway, so we have Smudge Ceremony, and then the Flute Ceremony. And then there's a Sweat Ceremony. Is different tribes do it differently. For some tribes, they actually just dig a hole in the earth and kind of cover it over. And so the idea is that you're going back into your mother, the earth, and you're coming out reborn. So everything that you did prior to that, or said prior to that, or if you feel bad about something in your life, you can actually be reborn. It's sort of like the Jesus experience of getting baptized, but just with sweat rather than getting dunked or sprinkled or whatever. So, but it's not you that's actually sweating. When you go in the sweat lodge, you pour water on these hot rocks that you've gotten, these special rocks with holes in them. They're like lava rocks. And so they retain a great deal of heat. And when you pour the water on them, the steam comes up and it cleanses you. And at the same time, so the lodge itself is sweating. It's a sweat lodge. And then you'll start to feel the water condense on your skin and trickle down. And it's a very cleansing and wonderful experience. And then when you come out, we like to dunk ourselves with some cold water and slam those pores closed, and then go up and have some fry bread and some soup and some nice nutritional light food. You don't want to eat anything too heavy after a good sweat, because it can be hard on your system. So we have a nice light soup or broth and some fry bread and honey, and sit and talk, do girl talk. It's always for us, it's a gender specific event. So men do men's sweats and girls do girl sweats. I don't think I'd be thinking much about praying if there was a naked man in the room. So, but who knows? Maybe I could rise above it. But anyway, okay. And then there's other things that are wonderful about Native American culture. I really genuinely believe that if you're going to eat meat, you should have had the experience of butchering an animal and feeling bad about it. You're not supposed to feel good about eating meat. You're supposed to feel like, be grateful to this animal for sacrificing itself to feed you and your family. You're not supposed to go to the grocery store and pick up a chicken and not think about it twice. Otherwise, don't eat meat. It's okay. Lots of people live with that. In fact, we call people who are vegetarians are bad hunters. So, but and if you do, learn how, it's a serious event, taking the life of an animal. Absolutely. It's not supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be yum. We're going to have barbecue chicken tonight. You're supposed to feel bad about it. And I think that we've gotten away from that in America. We've gotten too used to having someone else commit our sins for us. And then they can take that on their conscience, and we don't have to take it on to our conscience. And oftentimes people who do that too much for a living become callous to it also. So if that's what they do for a living, is kill hundreds of chickens a day or whatever, or cows, and plugging cows in the head with a bolt gun, they've got to become callous to killing after a while. And that's not healthy either. And that's one of the things. So there's ceremonies around that too, where we pet the animal and we say a prayer and we thank the animal for its life, and we weep if we feel like weeping. I threw up the first time I killed a deer. Whatever it is that you got to do, because I really felt bad about it. I mean, so it's beautiful big eyes, doe eyes, and I felt so bad. And you're supposed to. That's the whole point. But anyway, having a ceremony around it lightens it a little bit and helps you say thank you to the animal for sacrificing itself for you and your family, and saying a prayer over it, and making sure that you use everything possible off that animal so nothing goes to waste, so that you haven't desecrated this now, even the parts that can become dog food or cat food or whatever, or become moccasins or become clothing, so that you use every part of that animal possible without letting anything go to waste. And then there's ceremonies around walking. There's a walking ceremony I really love that the Navajo do. It's called the Beauty Way, where as you're walking, you meditate and you go, I live in beauty. I walk in beauty. Beauty is in front of me. Beauty is behind me. Beauty is to my right and to my left. Beauty is above me and below me. I walk in beauty. I walk in beauty. Beauty is before me. Beauty is behind me. Beauty is to my right and to my left. Beauty is above me and below me. I walk in beauty. And to say that over and over again, just meditate on that. How can you hate anybody when you're in the middle of a beauty ceremony? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Just to hear you say that for those few moments,
I
saying
know.
beauty to my right, beauty to my left, beauty in front of me, looking at your face is
Yeah,
just,
and above you and below you, don't
it
forget
brings, yes.
there's six directions there,
Yes.
you know.
Above, below, and within, right?
Yeah, just and think about that. Do that when if you're walking to the with the mail or whatever, you know. Just do try that those kinds of things. Those are wonderful ceremonies. In fact, it gives me chills just thinking it too.
Yes.
The other one we did this with our daughter. I've done it with children too, which is really very powerful for children. Is the blessing way, where when what we do is we get the lady, usually a pregnant woman, and get her really comfortable, lots of pillows, and just really comfortable all over, and smudge, and put her feet in some nice warm water with some petals or some smell goody stuff, and just get her nice and comfortable and warm and everything. And then everybody in the room, starting out, and I always start out so I can show them how to do it. You put your hands on her head and you say all the things about her that are wonderful, you know, and all the things that are that she is. And you don't say, I hope you will be this way, but that you are beautiful inside and out. You are an awesome mother and wife. You have done great things in your life, and you will continue to do great things and help other people. And then you put your hands on the baby tummy and say, you are going to be a wonderful human being. You are going to change the world in some fundamental way. You are going to make the world a better place just because you're in it, you know. And you say all these really good things about the baby and the mother, and everybody goes around the room and does this. And then at the end, we get up and have a feast and with fry bread, and everybody has a really good time. Now, I've done this also with children, where we go and do the blessing way with children, and you put your hands on the child and you say, you are going to be an awesome human being. You know, whatever comes to your mind, just say it. And this child will stand up from that experience. I mean, looking like Superman, you know, like they've got a cape on, you know, all of a sudden you are going to be an awesome human being. Good things are going to come to you. You're going to find the right mate and fall in love, and the world will be perfect because you made it different, because you helped somebody out, or you did this, or you did that. And whatever it is you become in your life, you will do it to the very best of your ability, and you'll become the very best at it that you can. And when you go to college, you'll be the best you can. You'll help other people, and whatever, you know, and you just keep saying these things. And if there's something about hearing these positive affirmations from other people that becomes really deeply heartfelt and spiritual. This is what we're getting at here. These are spiritual events, and you can have them any way you want. Then everybody gets up and eats and has a feast, and we go our separate ways and cry and hug each other. Speaking of which, since this COVID thing, we hadn't seen our kids since January of 2019, not January, but Christmas of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then my husband went in the hospital in January last year, not this year, but last year, with double pneumonia. We thought that he had gotten COVID. We never did find out. So this year here, just a few weeks ago, we finally got to see the kids and grandkids again. And I cried. We just wept and wept and wept and hugged each other. It was just, and now that was a deeply spiritual event. We were all crying. The kids were crying. The grandkids were crying, except the littlest one, who hasn't really gotten to know us yet. Yeah. So for my tribe, grandma's Yaya and grandpa's Oompa. So we've got, so the littlest one calls us Yaya and Oompa. And it's just a wonderful experience to be back with them again, since we've gotten our vaccines. We're fully vaccinated now. So unless they need to give us a jumper for these variants that are coming out, we can be around them again. And we're going to go have dinner with them again next weekend. And it's just, I don't know how to tell you how much I missed that. Even on the way there, I'd start to cry. I was happy, but then I'd start to cry and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Why am I happy and crying at the same time? I'm having a spiritual event, right?
Yeah.
And then when I got there, I blew it, let loose, But those are all wonderful spiritual events. And if this COVID has taught us nothing, it's to cherish with deep cherishness all of our friends and relatives and people we've been isolated and quarantined from for so long. In fact, I found out quarantine. Did you know quarantine is Latin for 14? Quarantine. Quar is 4, and teen, of course, is teen, 14. So the idea back then was that if you stayed away from everybody for 14 days, you'd be safe. But of course, we've been in this now for over a year.
Yeah, going to be more like 14 months.
Yeah, really. There you go. So this has been quite an event, and it really has taken me back and taken, I think, everybody down. I kind of like to equate it as nature is giving us a time out in the corner, and we better pay attention. We're not paying enough attention to our health and to our bodies, and eating right and doing what's right, and all the stuff that was going on in China, and the hate that's coming out now is. We have to tackle that somehow with more positive celebrations and talk about positive things and good music, and stepping in when somebody is making a racial slur or a racial joke and saying that is not right. People standing up to people and saying, talking about Chinese people that way is rude and wrong. And, they didn't mean to do it. It just happened, So we've got to get people on the same page of love and kindness and thinking good things and trying to be more helpful and healthy people. So we've got the blessing way and the beauty way, and everybody knows the Jesus way and the Buddha way. And, all these things are the ways. And Jesus said, I am the way. That was his the way. So there are lots of the ways. So find your own too, I kind of am a mixture of Native American and Buddhist and a little Christian. And I think I'm a little everything, like Gandhi talked about, all those books have truth in them.
Yes.
They're, even Islam means peace, for crying out loud. How some of people have screwed that up to mean jihad and terrorism is beyond me. I don't understand. So anyway, we got to get people back on those paths and do it in gentle ways. I've discovered that by arguing with somebody over conspiracy theories and stuff doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. So what I've decided to do and what I've started doing is saying, okay, well, let's sit down together, and here's a pencil and piece of paper. I want you to kind of draw out for me why it is that you believe this. What is this that you believe? And by the time they get done explaining it, it doesn't make sense to them either. But if you get them to explain it rather than trying to tell them they're wrong, that's what works. So I'm working more on that too. I have a master's in psychology, so I should be able to do more of this, but you can only handle one person at a time, and how many people come into your life at any time. But anyway, so that's kind of it, where we have and storytelling is another ceremony where, you sit down, you start to pound on a drum, and the kids come from everywhere, of course, and you tell them a nice story. All the stories in the Bible are stories about honor and faith and belief systems and sticking with things, tenacity. So we're Native American stories. And have you ever read, I remember in college, they had us read some of the, what was it? It was a Greek book, I think, the Book of Virtues. That's it.
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, it's like Andrew Cleese and the Lion is about this boy who was walking along one day and he sees this lion who's got a thorn in his paw. He pulls the thorn out of the paw of the lion goes on his way. Later on, the kid gets stuck in the lion pit somewhere because he did something wrong, and this lion protects him. So it's like, these are great stories of virtue, and you help me and I'll help you, and you protect me and I'll protect you. We'll stand back to back as warriors. There's one story, a Native American story of two kids who stand back to back to keep evil away, and face it head on, each one facing their evil face to face, but back to back, so that they've got each other's back. And those kinds of stories, we need more of that kind of stuff for kids to hear, rather than the stuff that, and it's sad also, at least when I was a kid, you could be somewhat innocent. We can't let our children be that innocent anymore. We have to tell them about bad people, and that bad people don't wear black, and that bad people look like everybody else. And we've got to tell them stuff that I wish we didn't have to. But this is a day and age when, and we probably should have then too. I mean, there were a lot of bad people back then. But anyway, but make your life a ceremony is the idea. And remember that your mind, will, and emotions are fed by these things, by music and prayer and thoughtfulness. And prayer doesn't have to be bow your head. In fact, Indians look up when they pray. You can do it any way you want, just as long as you're talking. Think of it as the creative force of the universe is what I think of God as, not as a little white guy sitting up in the clouds with a beard, but as the creative force in every single cell in my body. The part of me that's creative in mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of that stuff is part of God, and God is part of us, and God is part of that animal that I killed, and God is part of the trees that shade me, and God is part of the earth that I walk on, and the moccasins that I make, and everything that decays is God, and everything that's built is the creative force of the universe, because things have to decompose for other things to be made from it.
The circle, the cycle. Yes.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the cycle, I wonder if you might have a personal story to share about one of your births or a death that you witnessed or experienced where you incorporated ceremony into that life transition.
Well, I did. I was a CNA when I was, which is now NAC, but when I was going through college to help pay my way through college, and I witnessed several deaths, but none of them wanted to do any other kind of ceremony other than read the Bible and pray and that sort of thing. And that's okay. That's fine. I did whatever they wanted to do. That's a healthy person does whatever they need to do to help another person along a path of healing. If it's not yours, that's okay. It doesn't have to be yours. You can do anything you want. So they wanted to do mostly Christian stuff, and that's fine with me. One lady, I'll never forget, she sat straight up out of bed. I was reading from, I think it was John, I think it was, whereas in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That just really powerful, poetic stuff. Anyway, and she sat straight up out of bed and said, "It's so beautiful." She reached her hand out and said, "It's so beautiful." And she lay back down and she was gone. I'll never forget that as long as I live. It always gives me chills. Wow. And other people, have come back and said, "I see nothing but blackness." So, and finally peace, I've been in so much pain all my life, and you idiots brought me back. So I've heard that too. I've seen that too. So, and births, I've helped bring 4 children into the world as in life. And that also is just an awesome moment. My friend Teresa wanted me to come and smudge her in the hospital, so I did. And she just wanted that so it would cover up the smell of her joint. She was smoking a pot, So, but people have whatever they have, those kinds of things. For the most part, though, death is inevitable. We know we're all going there. I wish there was some way to save in a database somewhere all the experiences of all the people. I talked to this elderly man who, he drove all over the country in a Model T Ford when they were first out in the early part of the century. And he told me about all these great experiences he had during Prohibition. He was running booze from Canada into the United States. And a police officer stopped him and gave him a ticket, and he thanked him for the ticket because he didn't look in his trunk and find all this illegal booze. These great stories, of people's lives and meeting the love of their life and how they met and how many years they've been together. And I just wish there was some way to save all these stories of people's, but maybe I'll figure a way out. I don't know. I've been thinking about writing the story of us being separated from our parents and then trying to find my family again.
Absolutely. I would read that story when you write it.
Okay. I remember one time when I ran away, I climbed a tree And these guards are running around underneath the tree trying to find me, and I'm in the tree watching them.
That's incredible.
I had a really good time, though, kind of,
Yes.
so, but all in all, it is what it is, and life is what it is. And these poor immigrants that are coming across the border need safety too. I don't know why we can't help change the countries they're coming from so that they can stay where they are and so that they can have gardens and things like that. But everybody's got to fight for some reason, and I'm not sure why. I come from our tribes are all female run by women. Men dare not intrude on that. And a lot of the Algonquin nations up by the Canadian border and through New York and the Great Lakes area are all matriarch run. And I think that helps with peace, is having more female motherly type people in charge. And I think when we see more women in charge, we'll see less war. Testosterone is a dangerous thing if it's taken the wrong way, used the wrong way. And it appears to fold in on itself and create more of itself when it's used. If it's not used, it's safe. I mean, I love men.
Yeah. But I also agree with you that with more women in positions of authority that we would have less war. Absolutely.
Work on that as well. And I really encourage people to vote, even people who don't vote. And you can't complain about the way the world is if you're not going to be part of the solution. But you got to leave them alone too. You got to let people be who they are. A lot of people aren't going to take the vaccine now, I understand. And that's got to be their choice. It's kind of scary, but it's got to be their choice. I just hope this doesn't go on and on. 5.5 million people died of the Spanish flu. 5.5 million. And think of all the diseases. Millions of Native Americans lost their lives to the first diseases that came over, and the diseased blankets they were given, and people just trying to genocide us to death. I'm surprised that I've survived. I'm one of the survivors, and I'm only 13% Native American. So, but I'm just so grateful to be one of the survivors. I got to be here.
You have been through so much in your life.
Well, most people have.
This is true.
I think most people have. And my story is not any greater or lesser than anyone else's. It's just another story.
Do you feel like you have a particular story that is rising in you that you would like to share from your past?
Think about that for a minute. I can't think of anything that would be noble or whatever.
I mean,
just surviving. I think. Well, and that's it too. I had 20 something years of therapy, and I quit that many years ago. But the therapists I've had have been very helpful. But some of the things they did, like I was in an abusive relationship at first, my first husband. And I'd go to her and bitch and bitch and bitch. And she says, is there anything good about this man? Has he done anything good for you? And it suddenly occurred to me, he taught me to read. I was 17 years old when we got married and I couldn't read. And he taught me to read. If he did nothing else for me, he did that one thing. And I remember running home going, you taught me to read. And, because that just opened up my whole world. Once I learned how to read, I was then largely self-educated after that. It took me a while to figure out what some words meant, and I got a dictionary and learned how to sound out words and learned how to use a dictionary. But eventually I was a reading fool. I still read slow, but I love to read. But that was a wonderful experience, and just other experiences. I had this one therapist who she was a hypnotherapist, and I kept having these nightmares where I was walking down this long hallway, and you know how you in your dreams how the hallway just keeps getting longer, and it's like expanding, and there's this scribbling noise or some kind of noise behind the wall, and there's all these doors along there, and I'm terrified, and I know I have to get to the end of the hall because there's this beautiful room there that I've built, and it's full of velvet and plush things and a fish tank and a bathroom, and everything is soft and lovely and warm, and a fireplace. So I have to get from this scary place, and there's like stuff falling out of the ceiling. And you know how you see in old buildings, you can kind of see the dust through the sunlight. And then it was very real. And so anyway, so we go back into this dream under hypnotherapy, and we're walking down the hall and the scurrying's happening, and she's right there with me. It's really interesting. Hypnotherapy is very powerful. And so we open the door to see what's behind the door. And you know what it was? It's this little girl sitting in this pile of rubble with her hair all matted. I think I'm gonna cry. Then it was me. I left myself behind all those years ago as a little girl in this rubble, in this terrible place, so that I could build a beautiful room at the end of the hall where I could be safe. And that was just such a powerful moment for me to understand that I'd left this part of me behind. So now every time I have a dream about a little girl, I know that's me. and I'm going to be okay. But those kinds of moments were very powerful for me in therapy. And I really encourage people who've been abused or have had traumatic experiences in their life to go do hypnotherapy. I mean, it's like cutting to the chase. I mean, what took 15 years to get through with another therapist by talking, I did in just a few years with the hypnotherapist. Cut to the chase, cut through all the rubble. But yeah, that was a very powerful moment for me when I realized that I'd left my little girl behind, myself behind, so that I could live my life. And she's back there scrambling around in the walls, trying to get my attention. Sitting in the rubble of her life. Those are powerful moments. I think everybody should go to therapy, honestly. I think we'd have a better world if we all saw a therapist. Even as a psychologist myself, I needed a therapist. I think a lot of people who help other people need to be helped too.
Yes, I've been to therapy myself as well. So
thank you for listening to me today. I hope everybody enjoys it, and invite me back sometime.
Before we close, I just wonder if you would have a few moments to just circle back to your differentiation between the spirit and the soul.
Well, the spirit is defined as your mind, will, and emotions. In other words, the thinking, feeling, and motivating part of man. So your thinking is your mind, right? Your emotions are in your limbic system, which is in your brain too. And your willingness to do or not do things is your frontal cortex. You know, how you think things out and then make a decision as to what you want to do or not do. Your soul, and I see it this way, that your soul is the electrical energy that lives on after you. We are all bioelectric in nature, which means that we create electricity out of chemicals. And the chemicals come from the foods we eat and the things we do and the way we think. So we are bioelectric in nature, and we already know that energy cannot be created or destroyed. That's a basic principle of physics. And if we are bioelectric in nature and we have energy as part of our bioelectric nature, then that energy has to go somewhere. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be created. It has to go somewhere. And I don't know where that is. Nobody does, but we do know that that energy lives on after you. It cannot be created or destroyed. It is part of the universe itself.
Absolutely. I love
and
that.
So that's why I see spirit is something you have while you're alive. You know, being happy and enjoying things and having emotions and willing myself to play an instrument to change my emotions. If I'm in a crappy mood, I can go pick up a flute and go sit outside and play my flute, you know, banter back and forth with the birds.
Yes.
In fact, these flutes are so magical. You can play these in the woods and deer will come right up to you.
I haven't tried that with mine. I'm going to have to do that.
I've had deer come within 4 feet of me and they cock their head and they look at you and they've come right up to me. They don't have no idea what that sound is, but it pulls at their heart too.
Oh, incredible.
They have a limbic system too.
Yes.
You know, all mammals have a limbic system.
Well, before we close today, would you like to show a couple of the photos that you have of your moccasins in case people are interested in purchasing them from you? She does custom moccasins. You send.
Yes, this is one pair. These are the slipper type, and I do beading or not beading. Beading's a little bit more. Let's see if I can find another pair here. I went and got rid of my thingy there. Okay. And then let's see if I can find the other pair at the bottom here. Yeah, there's this pair. These are blank. These are traditional. And so what you do is you draw around your foot, measure around your ankle, and write it on a piece of paper and send it to me. And it's $150 for the blank ones and $175 for beaded. Here's another pair that's beaded. She wanted a longer tongue so she could make it go over her shoelaces. So I just extended the tongue on them a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
And here's another pair of slipper moccasins. And I had one guy who wanted me to draw something instead of doing beading, he wanted a drawing. So I came up with this idea of and then this is my label. So I stamped that on the inside.
Beautiful.
So I came up with a drawing of a buffalo for him, and he was rather pleased with that. So let's see if I can find it. There it is. This is for his slipper. It's a slipper moccasin. So
Wow, that's
I'm a
amazing.
pretty good artist. I can do wolves really well too, and some other things. So he was very happy with that. But yeah, so you just tell me what it is you want, and then you stick that, draw around your foot, measure around your ankle, write it down, put your name, address, phone number on the paper, and then mail it to P.O. Box 273, Valley, Washington, 99181. Then I will call you with payment when I'm ready to start, because I've got 2 pair in the hopper right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I may not be able to start them right away. But as soon as I do, and then I do buffalo horn and buffalo bead work too. And I have about 4 bear claws left. If you're interested in something like that, let's see if I can find that.
Yes, and I'll be sure to include this information in the show notes for anyone who's listening.
Oh, good. Oh, heck, where's my? Oh, see if I can find it here. Get too many things on here. I have to delete some of them. A lot of them are little words of wisdom that just get me, and I got to keep them.
Yeah.
Oh, and I do dream catchers also. Just a minute. Let me see if I can find some dream catchers here. The dream catchers are traditional red willow, and they come with the story of the dream catcher. Oh, okay. Boy, I tell you, I got way too many pictures on this thing. Oh, there's another good pair of blanks. I like these. Those are blanks, but they're so comfortable. They got 2 layers of leather on the bottom. Mm-hmm. And a Dr. Scholl's pad. Now, you don't have to have the Dr. Scholl's pad if you don't want. Some people just like to have their feet close to the earth, and that's good because there's that earth energy. Remember, the earth is charged one way, and we are charged the other way. Now, those are the buffalo horn and buffalo bone and horn. Yeah. The dark bead is buffalo horn, and the white bead is buffalo bone, and those are chokers. So I do those medicine pouches. You can have just about anything you want on them. But I make a lot of stuff. I don't have a website. This is one of my latest drawings I did for a box for a lady. So I do drawings. Lanyards. This is called loom work. So you can do that into necklaces and stuff too.
Yes.
So that's, just a lot of stuff here. Oh, here's the dream catchers. Got traditional red willow dream catchers. And like I said, they come with the story of the dream catcher. And I have lots of different kinds of feathers we can put on it. And the little jewels that are on the edge are little crystals that make little rainbows when the sun hits.
I love that.
And have little rainbows sparkling around the room.
Oh, well, Judith, thank you so much for sharing this time and space with me today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's an incredible honor to be listening to these stories and soaking them in.
It's so good of you. I miss you guys so much. I'm going to have to come by and visit.
Yes, I miss you too. I would love to see you again soon.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we can have dinner or something.
Yes, I will cook for you.
Oh, lovely.
Yes.
I'll bring the fry bread.
Perfect. Yes, we love to cook. All right.